I recently had a community post that I put here on YouTube asking people, how much has your comic book shop actually changed in the last 10 to 20 years? And the responses are just, I don't know, it's sad. It's sad that if you're a comic book fan and you decided you wanted to be a part of the business and you started your own comic book shop, you likely cannot make it selling comic books anymore. And this latest thing that Marvel's done, it's the biggest FU that they've ever done to your LCS in the history of FUs that Marvel has done to LCS, which has been a lot. And David Gabriel is absolutely a scumbag for even thinking this should be a possibility. This is something that is so disgusting and so dirty. I didn't even think Marvel Comics could fucking stoop to this. They're going to make your comic shop, your local comic book shop owner, be the bad guy of the whole situation with their new foil variant cover program. And when you hear the details, you're not going to believe it either, but it's real. And if you're a comic book shop owner and you didn't read these emails, you might not even realize how much you're going to be paying for these comic books that you're essentially getting no discount on. They're asking your local comic book shop to pay the cover price and then sell it back to the customer for the exact same price with no profit whatsoever. But of course, it's at a loss because they still have to pay for shipping. It's unconscionable that Marvel Comics would even do this. And I do have to give a tip of the cap, a hooray, a job well done to Rich Johnston and Bleeding Cool. Nobody else is covering this story. Nobody else in the comic book media is covering this but Bleeding fucking Cool. Everybody should be talking about this. Everybody should be shining a light on David Gabriel and Marvel Comics and what absolute scumbags that they are. This is from the article from Rich Johnston. Marvel Comics has informed comic book retailers that Marvel's new foil variant cover program will bear different, shorter discounts than normal due to the significantly higher manufacturing costs for foil covers. Basically, they will cost more to manufacture, but don't want the readers to have to pay more. So the retailers will have to eat the difference or pass the cost on to customers by charging them well above the cover price. For example, Ultimate Invasion #1, Brian Hitch foil variant, was to change its price from $8.99 back to $8, and retailers would get no discount. The Incredible Hulk 181 Facsimile Edition foil variant with a cover price of $3.99 will have no discount either. Retailers will have to order copies and pay $3.99 each. While Moon Knight, City of Dead People #1, Pepe Larraz foil variant will cost retailers $4.99, the price they are expected to sell it at back to the customers themselves. It's unfortunate that the comic book industry really is an industry of margins, the most narrow margins you could possibly imagine. A lot of comic book shops are hoping to make 10 to 15 cents on a cover when they actually make a sale within their shop. And that's why a lot of them have to count on a lot of these retailer exclusive variants or really cool variants that they know that will be able to sell in their shop because they just don't make any margins, no real money off of the regular comic books themselves. And now Marvel has decided that they're going to remove the retailer discount and make the retailer be the bad guy because the retailer can't sell the comic book at a loss, right? If you're a comic book shop, you can't afford to actually lose money on every single business transaction that you make regarding these new foil variant covers that Marvel Comics are doing. And I'll admit, I think foil variant covers are actually pretty cool. Of all the big, gimmicky cover things that they do, the foil variants are probably the best. Way better than Chromium, in my opinion. But for them to do this, to make your local comic book shop the bad guy, when you see the cover and the price is $8, but they're going to have to charge you $12 for it, or the price is $3.99 and they're going to have to charge you $6 or $6.50 just to cover the price of the shipping, the labor cost, utilities, the rent, and all those things that go into the price of the comic book that you get, is the most disgusting thing that I have ever seen Marvel Comics do in my life. And I have seen Marvel Comics do a lot of disgusting things. I challenge every single one of you out there. If you don't believe this is the most dirty thing Marvel Comics have done to retailers in history, I want to hear it in the comments section. Tell me what they did is worse. Maybe we'll get a shine a light on that and maybe show that Marvel was once even more disgusting than they are today. But it's hard not to freak out about this. We've gotten to a point where if you own a comic book shop, you can't sell comics as a primary product, mostly because of what Marvel Comics have done to the industry. And now they actually have the temerity to take even more out of the ass of your local comic book shop. It's unbelievable that we've gotten to this place. And I'm glad DC hasn't done anything quite this dirty yet. But I imagine because DC basically copies all of Marvel's homework, they'll do something just as disgusting within the next few months as well. But this has to stop. If you're a comic book fan and you like your local comic book shop, do not order or ask for any of these foil variant covers. In fact, you should be telling your LCS, do not order these. Marvel Comics are bending you over and taking it directly out of your ass. We can't support stuff like this because if comic book shops actually sell their new comic books, which are going to sell because this is a foil variant cover, this is something that fans actually would like to buy because no one wants to read what's in the comic book anymore, right? You have to buy it because of the cover or the collectability, supposed collectability of the comic book. If they're selling these things at a loss on day one, there won't be any comic book shops anymore. There will be no more havens for all of us geeks and losers to go and hang out and talk about this stuff anymore. These people are all going to go out of business if Marvel Comics has their way. And as you can imagine, there are some retailers that are absolutely fuming once they actually read what was going on. The most notable one, I'm sure you're not surprised, is going to be Brian Hibbs from Comics Experience in San Francisco, California. He's actually the retailer that lobbied for the FOC and made that actual thing. If you like FOC in your retailer, you can thank Brian Hibbs for that. Sometimes he goes a bit overboard. He was very, very pissed off at DC when they brought Lunar on board. He thought it was going to destroy the industry. And he has a tendency to go overboard. But in this case, I don't think Brian Hibbs is freaked out enough. This is what he said on his Facebook page. I don't think there's any possible words here other than, whoa, fuck Marvel Comics. Having the wholesale price be the same as the suggested retail price is utterly disgusting, as it will cause significant consumer confusion, and I'm entirely sure it's going to catch many, many retailers who don't read every single detail of every single email super, super carefully by surprise, causing them to sell these stupid fucking foil covers at a loss. Marvel's done a whole lot of shitty and craven and anti-business things over the decades, but this ranks among the worst. I sincerely hope all my peers catch this in time, despite there being nothing about it in the initial solicits, and refuse to support this kind of fucked up predatory pricing. Brian Hibbs and every other owner of a comic book shop in North America deserves to feel like that and 100 times worse, because Marvel Comics, with this type of program, with this type of scheme, is actually trying to put comic book shops out of business. You actually can't sustain a business when you're selling the products at a loss on day number one. And they sell plenty of these products at a loss on days number 30, 60, 90, all the way out to 365, with all the other bullshit predatory stuff that Marvel Comics have been doing over the years to pressure and force comic book shops to buy comics they know that they can't sell. Obviously, they have a destination. It's going to be in the dollar bin, or maybe if they know they can't even sell it at $1, they'll give them out to charity or something like this, and taking enormous losses. There's a reason Funko Pops and T-shirts and tabletop gaming and Magic the Gathering and all these other things are dominating local comic book shops. And comic books have been placed in the very back of the line because you can't make any money working with DC and Marvel, primarily led by Marvel, as your primary business partner. You have to put them on the back burner. You could still love comic books, but there's no way to make it anymore if you're relying solely on Marvel or DC to pay the bills anymore. They do nothing to get people interested in comic books, and they do everything in their power to just fuck people over left and right. This is easily one of the worst things I've ever seen Marvel Comics do, and there just aren't words. I'm so furious right now, and I'm trying to keep it back because I don't want to fly off the handle and say a bunch of stuff that I won't regret, but I wouldn't want it to be replayed later either. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are things that people do that get me upset, and I definitely get upset. But this is like beyond the pale. This is the most disgusting thing that Marvel Comics have ever done, and I really do hope local comic book shops throw this one right back at Marvel and say, "Fuck it, we're not ordering a single one. You take all the losses this time because Marvel Comics deserve this." They've been doing a lot of predatory schemes, a lot of gimmick schemes with comic books. I actually talked about one during War of the Realms, and this is bad, in my opinion. This is trying to force comic book shops to buy stuff they know that they can't sell. But it pales in comparison, obviously, to what I just discussed here, where they're actually taking away all the margin that your comic book shop needed just to be able to continue functioning and selling the comic books. If you haven't seen this one, or if you don't remember it, definitely check this one out where I talk about this predatory practice by Marvel Comics. Definitely not the worst, but it's still disgusting. There's also a link in the video description.